Well, good morning, everybody. I'm going to lead a conversation here. I don't have a presentation. I want to talk to you and share with you, sort of kick off this conversation about the future of retail. I'm going to kind of think out loud. I'm going to share with you the thoughts and fears and exploitations and challenges I face in running a big multi-billion-dollar global enterprise that is 95% direct to consumer. Direct to consumer meaning physical retail stores, full price and outlet, and e-commerce. And we have a wholesale business as well, but that's in the single-digit percentage. We have the 4 core brands. We run them as freestanding, separate operating companies. And as you all know, we're right now in our industry. Here we go. Squarely in the middle of what I will call the emerging practical phase of a major technological revolution. And I say the practical phase because it's not pie in the sky anymore. Now there are choices that we as executives can make to deploy capital and spend money on technology, put it in stores, and evolve to become omni-channel by investing more in our e-com platforms to a more sophisticated level and tying the two together. And there's a lot of buzz and there's a lot of excitement and there are a lot of gizmoids and apps and things that many of us are trying. My company is absolutely committed to be an experimenter and philosophically is embracing change in a big way. And you're going to hear in a second, I'm going to tell you that that doesn't come naturally and it doesn't come easily because we are at 100,000 feet up looking down. We really are a traditional retailer. And I'll talk about the components that make us a traditional retailer. But while we're in the middle of this, or at the beginning stages of this practical revolution, you right now can put your finger on some of the promises of this revolution, right? Like certain elements of enhanced customer service, the ability to upsell and cross-sell a customer, the ability to identify a customer, more personalization, a number of things even on the business side. Bringing education to the point of sale, almost taking the idea of what we call in the US the networks QVC and Home Shopping Network into the store. And there are some really fancy things like magic mirrors and some of these things that you see different retailers playing with. And I would say that all of us that are trying those different things, we're in an R&D phase. Like I said, our company is very much embracing them experimentally. And I am excited about it. I was just featured in Fortune magazine talking about our partnership with eBay, which isn't the part of eBay that you probably are thinking of, the eBay that is the online auction company. eBay, the B2B retailing service provider that not only does customer service and fulfillment for e-commerce, but all of the sophisticated big data analytics that support it, all the way down to agency services for media and social media and that kind of thing. So here we are, we're at the early stages of this, and a funny thing is happening. And I say we, I'm kind of broadly talking about the industry. We're experiencing tremendous success with the new parts of the business model. Social media, at least in our business, is really a driver. And that combined with very sophisticated e-commerce sites, we're seeing penetration of the e-commerce channel into the 20% of total sales. That's over $100 million in just one of my businesses. So it's going very, very fast. Now I want to give you, for 2 minutes, a frame of reference, because we don't all have the same kind of businesses. When I talk about retailing and us being retailers, I'm kind of broadly sweeping a huge heterogeneous group into one little box. We're more of a specialty marketer and specialty retailer. Our brands they target the bridge and accessible luxury price points. So they're expensive. They're highly differentiated. We don't compete anymore in what was the commodity section, selling clothes by the pound, so to speak, through wholesalers. We're a global lifestyle. Each of these brands are global lifestyle brands, which means that we're not just in apparel and accessories. We sell home products, stationery, everything that goes into the wrappings of a global brand. So I say this so that you understand my perspective. You may work in a more big box environment. You may work in food. I still think that you'll be able to generalize and take away a little bit in terms of the frame of reference that I have. That I think might be different than some of the things that you're hearing out there. So, at any rate, as we sort through and talk today in your session about what the future of retail is, it's really tempting to look right at all the interesting, exciting, buzzy components of, what might happen when a consumer walks in your store, and, the knowledge that we have about her and what she wants, and the personalization and the obvious customer service things. But if you read my little short prospectus on what I wanted to talk about, was this. We're all using the buzzword omni-channel, and we're talking about it as this great opportunity. But, a funny thing is happening. I said, when you look down, we're a retailer, and what that means is there are two fundamental business processes that drive our company: product development and store ops. And they run in parallel, and they're connected with all the other business systems and processes. Merchandising and design and marketing and inventory management, planning and allocation, pricing, store selling, all of those kinds of things. But that's really what makes us. The product development piece, which for some of you, if you're a wholesaler, that means procurement, buying, and then the store ops piece. Inside that business model though right now, because the consumer is so engaged by the internet and social media and e-commerce platforms, there's a major disruption happening down inside the business model. Now, companies like ours, and I'm doing this collectively, retailers tend to be very entrenched. And the one thesis I'll throw out to you is that we all in our back rooms in our retail stores have the sign that says the customer is king. I mean, sort of, right? That's the mentality we all have, right? And we believe it and we mean it. The reality, though, is that a classic retailing model, because of those two mainframe processes I describe, they really aren't, a retailer, I'm saying, really is not customer-centric. Customer sensitive? Absolutely. Customer centric? Absolutely not. What do I mean by that? I mean, it's a funny thing. We have a 51-week product development cycle in our business, and we're in the fashion business. Now, we don't operate in the business model that, say, Inditex does, okay? We have long lead fashion development. Kind of ironic, right? Because fashion is of the moment, and whims change, and our product is as perishable as the lettuce that you might sell at your grocery store, okay? And yet, we have a product development system that is tried and true and old and tied to the old product development and delivery system for the seasons, the spring and the fall seasons, and then the holiday and the summer seasons, which are the in-between seasons. We have planning and allocation systems, and this gets to the store ops piece. What it takes to get product to the store is so difficult that it's actually, I'm going to argue, really hard to respond. Oh, sure, we can ship goods overnight, we can do all that stuff. But the reality is somebody's sitting in a back room running planning and allocation and making decisions at the store level, using algorithms to say what that segmentation of customers would look like for that store. But you know what? Every time I go to a store, I was in Los Angeles 2 days ago, and I went to 4 of our different stores, and they all had the same thing. Oh my gosh, if we had more sizes, if we had more yellows, if we were, and you realize the consumer is so dynamic, your algorithms can't possibly keep up with it. So where am I going with all this? For me, the excitement of the technology revolution is not some of the things that are going to happen if somebody walks in and has an app on their smartphone, and we're detecting it, and we're reading it in the back room, and we're coming out and addressing her by name. That stuff's interesting. It's not revolutionary. Inside the business model today, I think this will resonate, we have a major disruption going on in the balance of power in our companies. And the disruption looks like this. In some of these companies, e-com was staffed as a channel, and it's just a channel. And they either take product allocations or have assortments planned and inventory bought for the channel in the same way. It might be the largest retail store in a fleet of 500. It's store number 1 in a fleet of 500, okay? I think the industry in general is on the precipice of a practical revolution. We are all experiencing what the great growth opportunity that e-commerce and social media bring. Now, how those parts of the business blend and merge with our traditional and legacy businesses represents the big opportunity for change. The opportunity to address consumer needs and to change the level of inspiration and the stimuli that make consumers great shoppers. The social and digital marketing component, the people running that are internally in a battle for a share of the overall marketing spend. So that's another front line of disruption. And operationally, there are all kinds of service problems disrupting it. One of the biggest ones we tried to get our arms around and face was, how do you incent somebody in the store to tell their customer to start using the web and to be completely omni-channel oriented and move the relationship as much as you can to the web, when your people aren't getting paid for that and your source systems and the compensation systems are incenting them to hold the ball and not let go of it. These disruptions are, for me as the CEO of this enterprise, the things that keep me up at night. And yet I look at what's really going on and I say, there's an opportunity with the technology that is here and what's happening in terms of the activation of the consumer to completely rewire our business model. So the old tried and true way of retailing is basically, and I'm generalizing to speak to everybody, that product development or product procurement lane and then that store ops lane. And what I'm actually suggesting we need to think about and innovate in our own businesses is a different spinal column that runs through our companies. And that spinal column is, and this sounds trite, but I'm going to say it, is CRM, Customer Relationship Management. Now, for us, that's everything, because I described what price tier. We have a high service sell and high price. And therefore, customer service is absolutely everything. By the way, so the 80-20 rule is more like a 10-90 rule. And what we've actually found is that having a database that is one database that store associates can access as easily as people working in the back room of marketing at the headquarters level. One database that aggregates multi-channel behavior and engages and talks to the consumer in a way where, here's the twist. We've all gotten used to the fact that we're making the back end a front end, right? So that e-merchants and the folks running our e-stores in a building like this at headquarters are actually the same thing as people on the floor of a store. But vice versa is also true. We're implementing technology as I stand here today, radical changes in our POS software that turns the front end into a back end, that sets up at the POS marketing tools that store associates and store managers can use to aggregate materials. They can put together seasonal lookbooks using JPEGs and ship and send them out to their customers on a one-off or on a segmented basis. We're turning store people into marketers. So this whole idea of re-anchoring our core competencies is really key. It goes back to this whole idea, core competence theory of management was the rage in business in what, the 90s? Mid-90s? I just want to say early to mid-90s. And the interesting thing that I always thought about core competencies, there's a fine line between a core competence and a core rigidity. A core competency is when something that the company does consistently and theoretically does very well actually drives competitive advantage. A core rigidity is the same thing, but only it drives competitive disadvantage. And what I'm suggesting is the technologies that are available now are where we get so much data that we can actually look at consumer behavior the way that we can study transactions, and we can follow her, and we can talk to her, and we can segment our messaging, and we can use big data applications to aggregate and to segment differently. We're at a place where we can actually scramble the egg on the organization format itself. So we're actually in the process of re-articulating how our organizations are based. What it looks like to me on the other side of this is we don't have an e-com team, okay? That's not a standalone separate process. Because I will tell you, even though I think we're enlightened and we do things where the merchants in our e-com business might say they need special things, they need special orders, you know, but honestly, it's only being treated now as if it's one of our largest stores, as opposed to almost a separate and opportunistic business platform. So I think that is the biggest opportunity. I think that, you know, we're going to be tempted when we talk about the future of retail to talk about all this splashy stuff that goes on inside a store. And I think that's normal. I mean, it reminds me of 1999 and 2000 when we talked about what the future was going to be. There'd be a TV screen everywhere, and you know, and big websites and portals we were going to live our lives through. I think a lot of that is exaggerated. I think there's going to be a fair amount of technology in the store, but there's fundamental rudimentary behavior that consumers want. I think the bigger idea is to understand when we let go of our precious bricks and mortar, and when the mentality in the company isn't, I actually am saying that brick and mortar itself is a core rigidity, and when we allow our business systems to serve the whole business in a more agnostic way, we're going to have much better competitive advantage. We are going to be more inspired to our consumer. We will look, every one of us, the reality that we're facing is the Amazons of the world say to us in our businesses, you can't get away in the commodity section of your segments. The commodity stuff is going to all efficiently go to big aggregators online. So we're facing the need for more differentiation, better service, and being omni-channel it's the single greatest answer. Being customer data focused and relationship focused is the answer, and that means we're going to have to completely change the underlying organizations themselves.